Hello YouTube. Well, this is a bit different from normal. If you've been watching my Euro Truck Simulator 2 playthrough, this is not the same playthrough. As you can see, I've got way more money and things in here. That's because I actually already have all the drivers in this version. I'm just doing a quick World of Trucks delivery. So part of their online stuff that they've set up for this. But the reason why I'm going ahead to record this right now is because there's a lot of stuff that's been happening this week. We had the riots down in DC. Lots of stuff going on. And I've not been able to record as much as I wanted to because I'm still recovering from my foot surgery. And basically, I can only sit for about an hour or so at a time. I can maybe stretch it to 2 hours before I have to get up and elevate my feet because they start hurting too much. So it's all part of the healing process. I've actually had to have my bandages changed over to some compression to help with my circulation in my legs and things like that. They're a lot more comfortable, but it also means that now I have to either get some home care, which depends on my insurance, whether or not I can qualify for that, or I have to get into the wound clinic to have them change my dressings about twice a week. I used to be able to change them on my own, but just having the new bandages which have the compression on it, which I'm not allowed to get them wet at all, has been kind of frustrating doing that. But on the other hand, it should help me heal a little bit faster since compression helps with circulation, and having better circulation is what's going to ultimately help my injuries to heal faster in my feet. And anyway, all that to say that it's difficult to sit for more than an hour to 2 hours maximum, and that makes it hard to record videos. Even though my videos that I do commentaries and things on tend to be fairly short, it's actually pretty lengthy to do editing and things like that. So this is not going to be the best edited video either, and I apologize in advance. I also don't have a script. Sometimes I write out a script. Probably about 75% of the time I do a script, and the other 25% I kind of ad-lib it. Any case, one other thing I guess I should point out on this version of Euro Truck Simulator that I'm playing, I've turned off all of the traffic violations and the speeding violations and things like that. And basically, I'm just trying to get the World of Truck delivery done as quickly as possible. So you'll see me blow through red lights and things like that on here. Assuming we get to a city, this is a pretty lengthy job that I'm doing for this one, to get all the way to Istanbul. And in any case, we're turning the other way, but I don't feel like waiting. There we go. I can take a little bit of damage. I don't really care. Okay, so I did want to talk a little bit, and that's kind of why I went ahead and decided to go ahead and record this, and just to show I don't have any damage to the cargo. That's the only thing that matters. I do have enough money in this game that I really don't care about having damage on this. I'm making about $1 million per day, and if that could only happen in real life, that would be pretty awesome. But anyway, back to my main point. So the reason why I've decided to do this recording, despite the fact that it's difficult to sit down for a lengthy amount of time, is because of the current events going on. It's not just the attack in the Capitol that I'm concerned about. I'm also really concerned with the response that social media did. And that response is not only banning Donald Trump from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I believe his YouTube channel also got banned. I never watched his YouTube channel, so I haven't concerned myself with trying to look to see if that's the case. But I know for a fact his Facebook and Twitter have definitely been permanently banned. But a lot of his supporters were also banned during the same time. And while I'm sure there are some of them who were advocating for insurrection, for lack of a better word, a lot of them were not. There's a lot of people who are just conservatives who just got in that ban. Now, it's a little difficult because I'm not sure how many people have been banned and how many quit. I know Rush Limbaugh, for example, deleted his Twitter account. There's a bunch of other people who've done that. But the response to all that is even worse, where you now have Amazon banning Parler from their server. And I've actually got a Parler account. I rarely use it, but I do have one. And the people that I watch on Parler are not these random kooks that the media claims that they are. Now, are there some random kooks on there? I'm pretty sure there are. But I seriously have found far worse stuff on Twitter than I've ever seen on Parler. And at least when I signed up, I know that Parler had FCC standards. So you had to be doing the same thing that the FCC would allow you to broadcast on the air. And so, for an example, you can't have pornography on Parler, and yet on Twitter you can. On Twitter, porn stars are on there, and they just put up their videos. And if you're a person like me who is a devout Christian who doesn't want to see that kind of stuff, it makes Twitter very hard to be on. And a lot of times there'll be people who will follow you on Twitter and they'll look normal, and so you'll follow back, and then suddenly you're getting porn spam to you. So Twitter is not a good platform, regardless of anything else. They've always been horrible. Parler is much better on that. And yet suddenly now Parler is going to have their servers removed. So Amazon's removing them from the server. And they're going to have to find, hopefully, an alternative. Now, this is big tech censorship. People can argue and say, hey, it's not against the First Amendment. I don't care about the First Amendment in this sense. Free speech is more than the Constitution. Okay, this is something that a lot of people get wrong. They think if a private company does something, then it's okay to do, and I just simply disagree with that. The biggest irony I find with all of this is I grew up as a little kid in the 80s, and I remember in the 80s there was this huge concern about Satanism. Everything was linked over to the cult. There were satanic sacrifices everywhere. Turns out none of that stuff actually was happening, but that's what everybody was afraid of. And people would go and burn albums. They would literally get records, take them into a bonfire, and torch them. Now, who were doing this? Who were the people that were destroying and censoring items? It was the right. It was the religious right that was doing it. And who was defending free expression? It was the left. Now what's going on? I got to merge here really quick, so let me get over here. I'll stay behind this chart here. This cement mixture. Yay. Anyway, so what's happening now is it's the left that is the religious right. It's now, I guess you would say, an irreligious left, but the reality is if you do not go lockstep with what the left wants, you get canceled. That's the same thing as what the religious right was doing back in the 80s, and the left opposed them. Now it's the right who is advocating for free speech. So everything has flipped completely on its head. Now, there's some people who have argued that the original Republican Party was much closer to the way the Democrats were, and that somewhere around the 60s they flipped. I think this is a historical inaccuracy, but there has definitely been a shift from what is determined to be conservative and what is liberal. Where I would stand politically is what would be called classical liberalism. I am a liberal in the sense that Thomas Jefferson was a liberal. Liberal is from the Latin word meaning freedom, and if you are pro-personal freedom, you should be a liberal. The problem is that liberals today in the US and in the West in general are not for freedom. They are for censorship. They are for authoritarianism. And what we're having now is that the government policies that will be taking over on the 20th are going to be matching the same things that what Amazon and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter already want. So we're having these big corporations who are not elected, who are determining who can talk in the public sphere, and they're getting the blessing of the government in the same time. So when you have the alternatives that pop up like Parler, they're crushing them, and the government's not going to stop them. This this action is by definition a monopolistic action. They have the monopoly. Twitter already has the monopoly on microblogging. YouTube has a monopoly on videos. In fact, Alphabet Corporation has a monopoly over search engines and email because they own Gmail. They have Android phones. They have AdSense. They have all of this stuff that they control. And you have to do what they say, or you don't get to use their product. But the argument that a lot of these fake conservatives, these fake libertarians who are like, oh, well, it's a private company, so they can do what they want. You need to go and find a different company. It's not like there are different companies out there. Parler existed, and what's happening now? Oh, Parler's getting the hook too. Why? Because you don't need a private company for your microblogging. You need your own internet because they own the internet. So you can't get around the monopoly by creating another company that uses the internet. No, if you are trying to do anything, you have to jump through their circles. That's the problem. This would be like the phone company saying, if you don't vote the correct way, then you can't use long distance. This is the same thing, except now it's the public sphere. It's Twitter, it's Facebook. These companies are saying you're not allowed to be part of 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump. Okay, 75 million people. That's more people than voted for any other presidential candidate in history. The only person who got more votes is, if they're legitimate, and you can't even say that in YouTube anymore, but assuming that they're legitimate, it would be Biden. He's the only person who's ever gotten more votes than Trump. Trump got more votes than Obama did. Trump got more votes than Clinton did. Okay? These 74 to 75 million people are now being told they don't have a voice. And here's the other problem that comes about from this. You can see the reaction that the conservatives already had with this on the Capitol. There's a lot of anger going on. Now, why is there anger? It's very straightforward to figure out why people would be angry. Okay, it's not anger over having lost an election. Conservatives have lost plenty of elections. I remember when Obama won his term. I remember when Bill Clinton won his term. Okay, and the conservatives were upset, but they weren't angry by that. Why? Because they felt it was a legitimate election. Now, they don't feel like it was a legitimate election. They don't believe that the election was valid. It doesn't matter whether it was or was not valid at this point. What matters is they believe that there were problems with the election. They tried to talk about it, and what happened when they tried to talk about it? YouTube cracks down and says, you're not allowed to say that. Your videos get removed. Facebook bans you. They put fact checker labels up and things like that. YouTube does the same thing. You're not allowed to question what YouTube, Silicon Valley, we'll just call it that. You're not allowed to question the orthodoxy of what these people are saying. Now, when you have a voice and you're upset, you can at least talk to people, and you can hope that maybe you can come to a common ground. And if you are extreme, which a lot of people have extreme views and they speak extremely when they're talking about different things, they use exaggeration and things like that. It can get pointed out if you're talking about it. If you can say how you're upset and you vent, and somebody else tells you that you're being immature, and they show you how you're wrong, and they show you how you're making false assumptions and things like that, then you have a chance to update your behavior. You have a chance to have seen the other side and to go, this argument is not very strong. In fact, I'll be honest, I had some of the reservations initially that came up with things like the voting patterns and the different mathematical equations that some people had used in the to examine the election and say, hey, these numbers look really weird. And what's interesting about it is, excuse me, what's interesting about it is I then was able to see responses to it, like from Stand Up Maths, who is Matt Parker, and watched a lot of what he said, and he was showing how this is actually normal. This is the kind of stuff that does happen. And it made me think, oh, you know what? Those arguments are not good arguments. They have answers. And because somebody said the argument and somebody else was able to refute it, I don't believe that argument now. Okay, if nobody had been able, well, we just had a disappearing truck in front of me. But if nobody had been able to refute the math argument that I'd first seen, I don't know statistics enough to have spotted the error that Parker found from stand-up maths. Okay, I'm not well versed in statistics. That's not what I enjoy about mathematics. So I would not have found that. Because somebody was able to say it and he was able to refute it, that error got corrected. Now, what happens when you're not allowed to say anything like that? What happens is the people who believe the erroneous argument never get challenged on it. They're told they have to shut up. They then believe you can't refute their argument because if you could have, you would have. And because you can't, it must be a true argument. Then, because they're banned, they have no one to challenge them on it. They can only go to places that have other people in their same echo chamber. So by banning people, what Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube do is they instigate the very thing they are pretending to be opposed to. Now, I say pretending. Pretending involves intent. I don't know their intent. I'm assuming some of them at least are legitimate. The reason I say pretending, though, is because these people are not stupid. The people who run Google, who run Twitter, all that stuff, they're smart individuals. They didn't get to where they are by being dumb. So they have to know that this is the kind of thing that will happen if they crack down like they do. Anybody who's studied history can see that this is exactly what happens when governments do it. It's not going to be any different when a corporation is doing it. So, the more that they try to suppress a view without refuting it, the more that view is going to strengthen and harden. And the people who hold to that view are going to become more and more convinced that it is correct. You cannot fight extremism by banning it. You have to fight extremism by confronting it. And you can only confront it if they can say what they think so that you can prove it wrong. Okay? That's just the reality of the way things are. And there's no other way to look at it. If you pay any attention to history, you'll see that this is the way that it always comes about. So, stepping off my own soapbox now, I don't know how much of what I just said in this argument that I've given to you is even permissible by YouTube standards. As far as I know, my reading of their rules, everything I said should be correct. The problem is that we know that YouTube is arbitrary and they just make up when they want to get rid of you. They'll just say, that violates our community standards. And you ask where? They're not going to tell you. You have no chance to fix whatever it was. So maybe I said something in there that one word might be taken as incorrect from community standards portions. Again, I don't believe anything that I'm saying is a violation of community standards, but simply talking about the election could threaten that. Now, I don't have to worry because I don't have a big channel. It's not like I'm going to be losing money by talking about these things. But, I mean, the chance of my channel growing gets less and less if I talk about these sorts of things. So, I'm not going to be talking a lot about these types of issues, but I did want to at least make one statement on here to have this out here for as long as it's not deleted, I guess, on there. Again, I made a video in the past that free speech is a good thing. We need to allow free speech. And it frustrates me to no end that people who think that they're helping, and I do believe they think that they are helping. They think that they're helping, but they're doing the very thing that's going to cause their own demise. And if you're cheering now because you hate Trump, I didn't like Trump. I still don't like Trump. I actually like Trump less now because of his response. I did vote for him in this election. I did not vote for him in the last election solely because of how much less I like Biden. Okay. Biden is a crook. And that was information that was hidden and suppressed by these same people who are now banning the president of the United States. And like him or not, he is the president of the United States for another week or so. What is it? 10 more days, it looks like. So, yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop for now on this because I basically kind of run out of ranting on here. I got to Got to figure out how long I'll go on this before I have to get my feet elevated once again anyway. And honestly, that to me is more important at this stage in time than everything else that's going on. But after I heal, obviously, there's going to be the world that we live in still. It's going to be a very interesting world that we're in. I hope and pray that things will cool down, that cooler heads will prevail. But I do not foresee that being what will actually happen. So everybody, please stay safe out there. Please think logically. Whether you agree or disagree with somebody, treat them with respect. Listen to them. If you disagree, provide a reason. Don't just shun them. Don't just tell them to shut up and go away. Sometimes you do have to cut off communication with somebody who is really toxic, but you do that at a personal level, and hopefully you'll find somebody else who is able to talk to that person, even if you can't. And that would be what would be best for everybody. There's going to be somebody out there who can respond to any of the trolls who have something incorrect, okay? There's going to be very few people who are able to convince others of a flat-out lie. If a lie is convincing, it's probably because there's an element of truth to it. And you can't just throw out everything while ignoring those elements of truth too. It's important to let people be heard. It's important to let them vent when they're emotional in a safe way. Don't ban them. Don't shun them. None of that stuff is going to be helpful in the long run. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. I do hope you guys have a wonderful day, and peace out.